So a quick rundown of how these hormones actually get through the body. So here's my brain right there. And we need to know where it actually starts from, the release of these hormones. So the hypothalamus, which is right here. Yeah, so that basically is the control center for the hormones that we need, specifically for the reproductive system. When that particular hormone in the reproductive system is required, this hypothalamus here, it sends a hormone, okay, called gonadotropin releasing hormone. You'll see it written down as GnRH, and they send that to the pituitary gland, which is this little bit here. So that's not very far to travel, okay? And this is a gland, so part of the brain gland here. Think about, if you're having trouble remembering the hormones and what they actually do, think of the name. So gonadotropin, gonad, what are the gonads? It's the ovary and the testes. Okay, so it's basically telling, the brain is basically telling the pituitary gland it needs to release, our reproductive hormones, whichever they may be for whoever you are. So that sends a message to the pituitary gland. Now there's two parts to the pituitary. There is the posterior and the anterior. So we want to focus on the anterior pituitary gland. Now that's not going to happen until the person has reached puberty. Otherwise, we're going to have those hormones way too early. We don't need them. So that then releases the specific hormone that is needed. So in males, so we'll start with the male, basically, and we'll look where it has to travel from. So we've got a very short distance here to here. If we look at my lovely model here, so if we have the brain, it's got to travel all the way down the body, and it travels through the bloodstream, so through the circulation, and it needs to get to the specific place it needs to get to. So if you look at what hormones actually are, I'll just go back down to the brain because the brain's kind of cool. You can just look at that. So hormones are basically chemical messengers, and they're part of the endocrine system. And how they get around the body, so they travel through the bloodstream to the specific tissue or the organ that it needs to stimulate to get the particular response that it actually needs. So basically, because it travels through the circulatory system or through the bloodstream, every cell in the body is exposed to all these hormones that are traveling around. But they move towards the target cell. So not all the cells will react to that hormone. So we don't want every cell in the body reacting to testosterone or reacting to estrogen. So all the cells in the body have, a target or a receptor, and the hormones that are released within our body will only attach, to that particular cell, that particular target cell that has the receptor that we actually need. Okay? All right, so we have the hypothalamus, we go to the pituitary gland, the anterior pituitary, and that releases two hormones, and that's the same in the male and the female. So the first one it releases is FSH, and that's the follicle stimulating hormone. So again, break down the name if it helps you remember. What are the follicles? So we know up here, the gonads, we're looking at the ovary and the testes, so that's saying we need to get those going. This one here sends the chemical messengers all the way down to those gonads that actually say, right, we need some follicles to be stimulated, basically. So either the egg, oh, look at this, my pet egg or the sperm. There you go, sperm cell and the egg cell. Okay, so that's going to be, they're going to be initiated. So the follicle stimulating hormone will be sent down to male and female to get those two particular cells, the sperm and the egg, activated. Then it will also secrete, this is the pituitary gland as well, will secrete LH, which is luteinizing hormone, and that also is sent through the bloodstream, through circulation, down towards the target cells that are required in the gonads. Yep. So in the male, I've actually got some more little models here that I put together. In the male, it's going to travel through the bloodstream and it'll go through to the testes. Now, I haven't had a chance to put my male one together yet. So there's a testes right there. There you go. There. And it's actually going to target specific cells, and those cells are called Sertoli cells. And those Sertoli cells, once they're activated, they need the hormone to be activated. And this is a follicle stimulating hormone. So remember, this is where the sperm are actually produced. Yeah, so it will initiate or target and attach to the Sertoli cells, and then they will start making sperm. Yeah, then that will kickstart this process, which you have in your notes called spermatogenesis. So that's the first stage. If we look at the female, and I actually did have time to put the female one together. Okay, and that's obviously going to target the ovaries. If we go in there, and we'll look at the ovary in a bit more detail in a second, but we'll just go back to the male for a sec. Then it'll also initiate, so back to the pituitary, the luteinizing hormone. This is also in the males I'm talking about now. Again, that will travel through the bloodstream, and it will go back also to the testes, where that's happening there. But that targets different cells because it's a different hormone. So remember before I said up here, they have specific target cells that each hormone goes towards. So in the same thing's going to happen in the testes. You're going to have the follicle stimulating hormones. They're going to target one type of cell, that's the Sertoli cells, but the luteinizing hormone is a different hormone altogether. So it's going to target a completely different cell, so the Leydig cells. And what those Leydig cells do, they release testosterone. Okay, the testosterone. And it's that hormone, the testosterone, works with follicle stimulating hormone to stimulate that spermatogenesis, because sperm is a follicle. If there's been too much testosterone, so just say the cells here, the Leydig cells in the testes have produced too much testosterone, that's going to send a chemical message back up, all the way up, there, and it's going to go in to the hypothalamus again. So this hypothalamus is going to regulate a lot of this hormonal control, and so if too much is released, the hypothalamus will pick up on that. It will send a message back to the anterior pituitary gland, and it will inhibit the FSH and the LH. Okay, so it's going to slow those down. That chemical message from the pituitary will travel all the way back down through the bloodstream, back to the testicle there. Sorry, that was a bit blurry. And that will say slow down the release of, or the making of the sperm. Okay, so that's gone to the Sertoli cells in the testes. The Sertoli cells then release something called inhibin. That goes into the bloodstream. Okay, and then that gonadotropin hormone and also the FSH, will slow down that process of spermatogenesis. Okay, once the sperm production has slowed down enough, or slowed down to the point where it's not making enough sperm, okay, the Sertoli cells, all the way back down here, they will actually stop the release of inhibin. Yeah, so that will send the message back up here. It says stop inhibin, stop that, and then sperm production will start to increase again. So we go through the whole process. Okay, so the pituitary will release the FSH, and it will release the LH. It will come down here to the Sertoli cells and the Leydig cells, and they will start that process of spermatogenesis all over again. So hopefully that gives you a little bit a clearer idea of how the hormones work in the male. The female obviously is a little bit more complex. So we will look at that in a sec.